Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I want to talk to you about what my plans are in terms of reading for February. And because this is only my second TBR so far this year, let me quickly mention once again what I already talked about in January, and that is that I intend to keep my TBRs quite small this year. In fact, I intend to limit my TBRs to 5 fiction books and 1 non-fiction book per month. That does not mean that I won't read any more books in the month. That does not mean that I will read all of those books in the month. That just means that my TBRs will be limited to those books, because I just don't want to feel forced anymore to read like 5 books at a time. And I know I'm not forced to read 5 books at a time. I'm not forced to read all the books that I put on my TBR, but you know, once I put a book on my TBR, I really feel like I have to read it. And it's my own issue to work through, and the way I'm working through it is by making my TBR smaller. Now, the 5 fiction books will also include my 2 TBR jars, although I will only pull from my series TBR jar every month and not necessarily from my Goodreads TBR jar. For example, this month I won't pull anything from my Goodreads TBR jar once again because I already have 5 books on my TBR. But yeah, anyway, that out of the way, let's get into my TBR and let's start with the rereads and buddy reads I have planned for this month. And actually, because I usually have my buddy read for my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries. For those of you who don't know, that book club is all about reading adult high fantasy or adult fantasy written by women and genderqueer folks. And the buddy read for the book club is actually a book I read in January, or I'm still currently reading in January as I'm filming this, which is Assassin's Apprentice. There's different reasons why I put it on the poll, even though I've already read it or have recently reread it, whatever you want to call it, but I won't go into those reasons now. So anyway, I won't have a book for my book club on my TBR this month, although I will still be active in the channels on the Discord. So yeah, if you want to get into Assassin's Apprentice, finally get into Robin Hood, then definitely go and check the Discord and the Twitter out down below. But the reason why I'm mentioning it anyway is because in February I am gonna be reading Royal Assassin, which is the second book and the sequel to Assassin's Apprentice. This is the second book in the Farseer trilogy. I don't think I have mentioned the series yet. And the Farseer trilogy is the first trilogy in the realms of the Elderlings by Robin Hood. I am currently rereading all of these books, or trying to reread all the books by Robin Hood that I have already read, to then finish the last 2 series that I haven't read yet in the realms of the Elderlings. And so yeah, I'm gonna be continuing with Royal Assassin in February. I'm also technically gonna have to reread Assassin's Quest, which is the last book, but I won't officially put this onto my TBR. The reason why I will have to read it is because for the buddy read that I joined for the realms of the Elderlings, we decided that we were gonna read 3 books per 2 months to be done with all, I think 15 or 17 books. I don't remember how many books it was. I think it might have been 16. I think it was 16 books in the realms of the Elderlings. So, you know, we're gonna have to read more than 1 book per month. We decided 3 books per 2 months. Technically gonna have to read Assassin's Quest, but I won't put it officially on my TBR. I am so rambly today. I'm sorry if this video gets really long. But lastly, for this book, let me quickly tell you what the Farseer trilogy is about. As I said, this is the first trilogy in the realms of the Elderlings, and in this one we follow Fitzchivalry Farseer, who is the bastard son of the King in Waiting of the 6 duchies, which is the main setting of this first trilogy. And after Fitz's discovery, his father abdicates his place as king in waiting, and Fitz is taken in by the royal family to be trained as an assassin. And basically we just follow Fitz throughout the first, you know, I think like 3-ish decades, 2 to 3 decades of his life. And that's what this trilogy is about. So yeah, I wanted to say very excited to continue on with my reread, but to be honest, I am not, because the first one, my reread, really bored me. and I'm excited to get through this to get to the live ship traders. Let's put it like that. The second reread I have is for a read-along I organized, and that is also taking place in the Discord of my book club. So if you want to join us, check out the links down below. But that reread is The Name of All Things by Jen Lyons. This is the second book in the A Chorus of Dragons series. I started this read-along to prepare for the release of the fifth and final book in this series, which comes out at the end of April. And so we're reading one book per month until the final book is published, and then we'll read that in May. So February, of course, is the time for the second book. I am very excited. On my first read, the second book was the book that I enjoyed the least. However, in this one, we're properly introduced to one of my favorite characters, actually two of my favorite characters, to be honest. And so also, I love the first book so much more on this first reread because I got so many more connections. So I think I'm definitely gonna enjoy this one a lot more this time around as well, and I'm just really excited. This series is a lot harder to explain than the Farseer trilogy, what it's about, so let me just quickly tell you the setup of the first book. First of all, it's queer as fuck, love it, we're here for it. But in the first book, we start the book with our main character, or our main character for the first book, one of our main characters for the series, Kieran, being imprisoned. And his jailer demands that Kieran tells her his life story. And so Kieran does, but the jailer decides that he didn't start at the right point in his life with his life story. He didn't start at the proper beginning, and so the jailer decides she's gonna tell Kieran his life story. And so the two of them take turns also explaining how Kieran ended up in this predicament that we find him in at the very beginning of the first book. And yeah, I absolutely love the series, and I cannot wait for my reread of this. Also, if you still want to join us, just, you know, you can catch up. Even if you don't catch up, it doesn't matter. We're all really nice people. All of us have so much brain rot. It is so much fun. We're basically constantly talking about how stupid Kieran is, and also about how cute all the ships in the series are. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So definitely come and join us if you want to. So sorry if the frame is slightly different. I had to change the battery on my camera. But the next thing I want to do is I want to pull a book or a series from my series TBR jar. For those who are new to my channel, the series TBR jar holds all the unfinished series I have on my shelves. And every month I pull a book from this TBR jar to either continue on or finish that series this month. So let's see what I'll continue on with in February. For February, wait, let me get up and get the book actually. So for February, I'm going to be continuing on in the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu with book 3, which is The Veiled Throne. I actually started this book already back in December, and I got 200 pages into it, which is about 20%. So, you know, I got a good chunk into it, and then my reading slump hit me. So yeah. But I'm very excited to be continuing on with this anyway. I had planned to pick this back up in February as is, but I didn't want to put it onto my official TBR because this is quite a dense book, and I feel like I'm not 100% out of my reading slump yet. But now that I pull it from my series TBR jar, it's a good excuse to finish this bad boy. And so the last two fiction books, as well as my non-fiction book that I have on this TBR, are 3 books that I want to read for Black History Month, which, even though it's not as big of a thing as it is in the US for, you know, historical reasons, of course, almost every country, if not every country around the world, has some type of Black history. But, you know, there's different scales, I would say. So while it's not as big in Austria as it is in the US, there's still some events organized around Black History Month. And so yeah, I just thought that I'd choose this month to focus around reading some Black authors, which, you know, I don't always do for all history months, even though I probably definitely should. but I'm also someone who usually very much advocates for reading books all year round and not just 1 month of the year and the rest of the year forget about them. But anyway, I currently have a few unread books by Black authors on my shelf, so I just thought I'd use that excuse to pick them up. And the first of those books is The First Woman by Jennifer Nansumbuga-Makumbi. This is, it says here in the back, at once epic and deeply personal, the second novel from prize-winning author Jennifer Makumbi is an intoxicating mix of Ugandan folklore and modern feminism that will linger in the memory long after the final page. I honestly don't know a lot about what it's about. I believe it's about a daughter looking for answers about who her mother is. And I think it's like speculative literary fiction with some magical realism elements. And yeah, I love this cover, first of all. I also think that we very much, you know, even when we read marginalized authors, we very much usually read marginalized authors from the global north, especially from the US. So yeah, I also try to read a lot more international fiction. I still want to do it this year, even though it's not as specifically a goal this year as it was for me last year. And so I got this for Christmas. I'm excited to read it and I want to see what I think of it. And then the last fiction book I have on this list is actually a book that I bought in December because this was the book I pulled from my general for my Goodreads TBR jar. But then because of my reading slump, I didn't get around to reading it. So I thought now is a good excuse. And that book is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland, which is the first book in a duology, I believe. And this is, first of all, YA. So, you know, it's YA. I don't have the best track record anymore with YA, but there's still some YA books that I'm really interested in, and I've heard a couple of good things about this one. And what this is, as far as I know, I believe it's alternate history set during or after the Civil War, and it's basically set in a reality where Black girls are trained to kill and fight zombies, I think. So yes, I'm excited to get to it. I'm excited to see what I think of it, and it should be a fast read since it's YA. And then as for the nonfiction that I have this month, I'm not gonna be continuing on with Capital in the 21st Century, even though I'm not done with it yet. That was my nonfiction for January. But I need a bit of a break for it, and also I have a nonfiction book currently on my TBR that I got last year because I saw quotes from this book in one of the other books I read, actually in The Brutish Museums by Dan Hicks. And I really liked those quotes, so I looked where they're from, and I thought I wanted to read the original paper or work where they were from. And that work is Necropolitics by Akil Mbembe, who is a Cameroonian philosopher, theorist, political theorist. I don't know exactly what this is about, but you know, I think this is one of those books that pulls from a lot of different places, like politics, race studies or racism studies, and I don't know exactly what it's about, as I said. But I am very, very excited to get into this because a lot of what we read, even a lot of what I read in anthropology, is of course by authors, by writers, by people who are mostly from America, mostly from North America, sometimes from the UK, and sometimes even from France or from Germany. But we don't get to see a lot of people, well, I don't get to read a lot of things from people from the global south. And so yeah, that is why I bought this as well. And Judith Butler and Arjun Appadurai both blurbed this book, so that is very amazing. Judith Butler says, the appearance of Akil Mbembe's Necropolitics will change the terms of debate within the English-speaking world, which sounds amazing. And Appadurai says, this book establishes Akil Mbembe as the leading humanistic voice in the study of sovereignty, democracy, migration and war in the contemporary world. So, you know, high praise for this book, and I am very excited to read this. I'll probably read it quite slowly because I do want to annotate this. And yes, very, very excited. And that was it for this video. That was it for the books that I have on my February TBR. If you have read any of the books, or if you want to buddy read any of the books, or if you have any thoughts on any of the books, leave that in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media as well as to my book club, as I mentioned. So if you're interested in joining the Assassin's Apprentice read along or buddy read, or if you're interested in joining the read along for A Cards of Dragons, all the links are down below, so go and check them out. And yeah, with all of that said, I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!